I'm Debbie.
And I'm Allison.
And we're the Poltergals. Spooky.
Hi, I'm Allison.
And I'm Debbie.
And we're
the Poltergals. Welcome back to another true crime edition.
Yeah.
We're getting true and we're getting crime in here. True crime.
Are we?
Yeah.
Oh.
Are you excited?
Yeah. Besides the fact that our original audio go kapoof.
So this is a redo episode. So I don't know if you guys remember or not, but in October for around spooky season, we actually did our first live show.
Yeah.
Allison, what was that like?
I mean, it was nice.
It was nice.
With
and
the whole
then
4 people that showed up, and then the Pokemoners in the back.
Yay, Pokemoners. And also, thanks, shout out to Boobays. We love you guys. Shout out Caitlin and Josh.
Yeah.
They got the boo and they got the bay. And we got the polter and the gals. But anyway, this is a redo episode because our original audio from our live show, as Allison put it, went, what did you say? Kablooey?
Kapoof.
Kapoof. So we are going to be covering
Amityville Horror House.
Woo! Horror House.
Not the other one.
Not the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Although Boobays did already do their redo version of this.
So go check it out at
Yes.
Boobays. Again, they're on everywhere. So where you're probably listening to this podcast, go and listen to their podcast.
Yes.
They're fantastic again. And if you want to laugh and have some good commentary on horror movies, or if you are horror fans, which, I mean, you're coming to a true crime / ghost podcast. So I assume you do.
If you like our stuff, then you would like their
You'll like
stuff.
their stuff.
They're basically what we do, just with movies.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
yeah, so that's a little disappointing because,
We had a whole live show.
yeah, we had a whole live show.
And it is never to be seen to anyone in the internet.
No.
Until, guess what, Allison? We're doing a redo.
We are?
Yeah, we're doing another live show.
Oh, yeah. I like how
You're like, wait, am I? Are we?
Wait, what? Since when? Oh, yeah, duh.
Allison, are you ready to tell them about the live show we're going to be doing?
So we're going to be doing one with RoCon 23.
RoCon.
What, the 21st?
Yep, 21st.
21st at 10 a.m. at Nexus
Esports. So
Yes.
if any of you guys are listening, want to join us, that is right. It's RoCon 23
Yeah.
at Nexus Esports, 600 Columbus Avenue.
Mhm.
We will be doing our live show at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
And for those of you that do want to come, I would say go ahead and get your
tickets online.
Get the tickets and then get the essentially 3-day pass.
Yeah, go ahead and get the
it'll
3-day pass. So much more worth it.
It'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so the 20th through the 22nd.
Mm-hmm. We're going to Comic-Con, baby.
Yeah, and then you'll get into our grand opening.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday are all day events, and then Sunday where we do our big finale kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's only $20 a ticket.
Yeah, it's $20 a ticket. Or, again, if you just want to come to our show on Saturday, it's only $10. So get your tickets. Come to our live show. We'll have sandwiches, and there'll be beer and wine for sale, right?
Yeah.
You'll be able to grab a drink. I know it's 10 a.m., but, hey, I'm not judging you.
As the good old Alan Jackson once said, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. And then also, then we can head over to Cultivate 712. We'll be having a vendor market as part of it. That's where Artist Alley is going to be. So you'll be able to go see us at Poltergals. Then you'll be able to go over to Cultivate, do some artist markets. There'll also be Texas Music Cafe, so you can throw in a concert in the middle of your day. And then even Startup, I believe Stay Classy is going to be hanging out with us too. Of course, One Day Bar is right around the corner. So you guys are definitely not going to want to miss out on RoCon 23.
You like scavenger hunts, Waco Escape Rooms will also be joining in.
Oh my gosh, yay.
A big kind of scavenger hunt, of course, from starting at 10 a.m. with our show
10
until
10 a.m.
10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
10 p.m., 11 p.m.-ish.
Yeah.
With Bustles and Bangers.
Shout out Bustles and Bangers.
If you
and Burlesque is Saturday night too.
And then
so
we have Burlesque over at Skellington's.
Casket and Cauldron. Shout out. I'll be performing again.
Yeah,
so I actually brought my talent with me. Do you want me to make you something, Allison?
Yes.
So for those of you who are listening, please turn down your volume or take off your earbuds. This is going to be terrible.
This part is going to be a speakerphone only part.
Yeah.
Please.
Do not put this in your ear holes. Just a warning. Anybody watching on YouTube, you're in for a treat. So what I'll be doing for the burlesque show.
By the way, if you're not watching on YouTube,
you're not watching.
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Go to the Poltergeist YouTube page and just hit the like, subscribe, and follow, and then you can get this full enjoyment.
Yes, join us. But anyway, so on the 21st at 8 p.m. Remember, part of RoadCon. Going over to the burlesque show. And just give me a second, and you'll see what I do. Are you ready, Allison?
We're awkwardly here.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit me on the nose. Again, this is not for you ear hole listeners with the earbuds.
Please take off your earbuds. I'm sorry. All right, so what we do is we have a balloon here. What you're going to do is you're going to do a little twist right here, the same length as your hand. That's your head. You're going to fold it in half. You're going to do another twist. Now your puppy, guess what, has ears. You're going to go down his neck. You're going to fold it in half again, right there. Then guess what? You have front legs. Now you have this weird wiener dog. What you're going to do again is you're going to take your back legs, and now you're going to fold your back legs, and you're going to twist them. Those back legs are too short. There you go. And guess what, guys? Now you have a balloon animal dog. So anybody that did not like those sounds, I'm sorry. Allison, here is your balloon dog.
It's a puppy.
He's a puppy for you.
It's rough.
And again, this is all in advertisement for RoadCon 23.
It's our polter puppy.
A polter pup. But yeah, so this is our polter pup. Guys, come and see us. Come and see us January 21st, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Are you ready to get into the episode now?
Yeah, let me wake up.
I know that was literally just a giant ad, so thank you guys for staying with us.
Let me just wake up from this, which is what this family did not do.
Ooh. Spoilers. But anyway, let's get into it. Amityville Horror House.
Yeah, this is the horror. So many O's and R's in this one. But, of course, it is following the Dafoe family. Mm-hmm. Which, if you have not seen any of these movies, then
what are you doing?
What are you doing with your life? Although I will say, how did you feel about the movie before we really get into?
I actually liked the movie. Again, it's one of those that's like more of like a psychological thriller, so it's not for like blood and gore fans. But I thought it was good. I mean, especially for what was it, the 80s?
Yeah. So we did watch. I think it was 1979 or something.
79 or I
think it was the original one made in the 70s or 80s.
Because it was funny, like the movie was made so close to the murder.
Yes.
So it's like it's so sad, but it's like also like ooh, too soon, you know?
Yeah, it was. I think what Caitlin was saying, it happened 4 years. Mm-hmm. Something like that.
Because the actual event happened on 1974.
Yes.
Or in 1974.
So yeah, that would have made 1979, 4 or 5 years afterwards.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But so of course it was one of those ones that you can see a lot of differences between this one and the one that was made in 2005 with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, and I mean everybody loves Remy Reynolds. So.
Yeah, of course. But you could see the differences in this one.
And this one was like very much a story of its time. Yes. You know, like you could tell, like
the graphic, like the
the special effects, the practical effects,
everything.
The outfits. Like honestly, though, her outfits iconic. Yes. The mom hot. I love me some MILFs.
It does. It does.
Anyway,
Jesus, but it does fit this time period very much so. I think it ages pretty well. Yeah,
it aged okay. And I mean, again, it's a classic. Like Amityville is something most people have heard of, which is why we did this episode for our live show because again, it's a tale as old as time.
Yes, it definitely was.
Yeah,
and is.
And again, it's become and like we talked about this in the live show. Like it's very much become more stigmatized and dramatized and Hollywoodized than original. And I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later. About the dad kind of maybe cash cowing in on the story. Yeah. Not the dad that like murdered his family. The dad of the family that got moved out there. I'm giving spoils.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I definitely think, just because I've seen both versions now, and both versions, they definitely, the dad is pushed out super early on to be the super bad guy when it took time for him to build up, but obviously for movie's sake they had to rush it. Yeah. And it took like what, a month? Yeah.
And the way the movie is set up, it's like on a countdown. Yeah. So it kind of like pops up, it's like day whatever. And so it really does build that suspense, and it's a slow burn. The movie's 2 hours. Yeah. It's still a lot. It's still rushed, even though it's long.
And you can definitely feel it towards the end where it starts to get rushed, because they start like a day by day thing. Yeah. And then about halfway through, it's like day 7.
Yeah, it like
and then
jumps.
All of a sudden it jumps to like day 15.
Yeah. And I mean, again, these people lived in their house for only a month. So. Yeah. As we're about to find out. Allison, are you ready to get into the history?
I think so.
Now, sorry again, all spoilers, but we just love this story.
Also, and not spoiler. If you haven't seen this movie, it's 2023 now.
Like, it's been time. You've had 40 years.
40 been almost 20 years since the 2005 version with Ryan Reynolds.
Also that.
So
children born in 2005 are almost allowed to drink.
Exactly.
So if you guys have not gone to watch the movie, just go watch it.
Yikes, they're actually 18.
Yeah, isn't that terrifying?
Because my sister's in 2005 baby.
My sister's 2008. So, anyway, Allison. So let's get into it.
Of course, this happened in 1974 with the Dafoe family in 1913. Wow. It followed the family of 23-year-old Ronald Dafoe Jr., where he killed. No, that's the son, right?
Yeah, I think it was the son.
This is where the movie doesn't entirely line up, because they do change some of the names.
Yeah. The names were a little different.
Yeah. So it's the Dafoe family. 23-year-old Ronald Dafoe killed 6 of his relatives with a .35 caliber rifle while they slept. Parents Louise and Ronald Dafoe Sr., with siblings 18-year-old Dawn, 13-year-old Allison, 12-year-old Mark, and 9-year-old John Matthew.
That's so sad. And again, this is the oldest son. Yes. Who's the one that murdered his entire family. Yes. Which is so sad.
So, as we find out, he later claims that he was hearing voices in his head urging him to kill. And some believe to this day that he was indeed hearing evil spirits that resided within the so-called Amityville horror house that is on 112 Ocean Avenue.
And again, we talked about this, like the address had to be changed because of how popular the location was.
And we'll find out later a little bit more to what the address was changed to. Mm-hmm. But like you said, it's even with an address change, people are still going to visit.
It's become a dark tourism spot, which, we love, but...
Yeah, but it is an actual house still to this day. Yeah. So it is private property, but like most places like this, it's not going to prevent people from going. Yeah. So with an abusive father and a passive mother, it's no wonder that this boy had a troubled childhood. Yeah. That led him to substance abuse as an adult. He also lashed out to his father. Wow. But once even threatened him with a gun.
So it was building up.
Yes, it was slowly building up. The parents hoped that letting him live at the home with a weekly allowance, he hoped that he would be able to do something, because
he could barely hold a job.
Yeah, he could barely hold a job. And so they hoped that having a weekly allowance, allowing him to stay, would help him
chill out.
Get on with life.
Yeah.
But then one day in question, the Dafoe Jr. left work and went to a bar. He kept calling his home to no avail and complained to patrons about it. He then eventually left, only to return at 6:30 a.m. when he yelled, saying, "You gotta help me. I think my mother and father are shot."
Whoa.
So he left the bar. He went to the bar complaining, left, came back in the morning, and then yelling.
It sounds like he was trying to set up an alibi.
Yeah. So when authorities found out, they saw that all 6 family members were dead in their beds, shot with a rifle at around 3:15 a.m. and all positioned on their stomachs.
That was a weird part about it. And also the fact that he said, I think my mother and father have been shot, but he even shot his little siblings, like the children in the house.
And again, his siblings were 18, 13, 12, and 9.
Oh, that's so heartbreaking.
So to sit there and say, like, not even mention
them. Yeah, that's suspicious.
The authorities found that there was no sign of struggle, nor had they ever been drugged. Local reports of gunshots were logged, with only the Dafoe dog barking away.
No gunshots were reported.
Oh, yeah, no gunshots were reported.
Yeah, no one said that they heard the gunshots, which I'm like, how can you shoot 6 people?
People with not hearing
with
anything.
No one hearing it. All the people heard were the dog barking.
Was the dog. Dafoe Jr. was later changed his alibi several times for claiming that he was at the bar during the time of the murders to mob hitman Lewis, failing killing his family.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, so he basically tried to just throw it onto some local mob
guy that was
was there said, oh, he was the one killing it, while forcing Dafoe Jr. to watch.
That's not good.
He eventually confessed that he gunned his own family down and stood trial on October 14th of 1975.
Wow.
So that following
So he
year.
did get caught and convicted.
Yes. And what makes it worse is that he even confessed afterwards.
Yeah. And again, like him trying to change his alibi about being in the bar, even though he literally left the bar and was he's tried to set himself up an alibi, but then did not get his story straight. That's how all criminals get caught.
Yeah.
Keep your story straight.
I mean, I can understand saying, okay, I left this bar, but the fact that he went back to that same bar at 6 a.m. yelling that his parents had died.
Like, you could have, I don't know.
Like, why go to the bar? Why
who
not
knew?
go straight to the authorities?
Allison, how did you know that criminals are stupid?
I mean, I don't know what gives it away other than the straight stupidity.
Maybe them just being criminals.
Dude, like, just go to the authorities. If you're really trying to create an alibi, go straight to the authorities.
Yeah.
And say, I was at the bar and I went home and I found my family dead, so I came straight here. Well, like, that's more of an alibi than going back to the bar screaming, my family's dead, or my parents have been killed. Like, like, really? You would have saved your butt. And, yeah, you might have been at the police station, but at least you're at the police station.
I don't know, man. But anyway, he did confess to the murder of his entire family and stood trial on October 14th of 1975.
So his attorney, while he's at trial, William Weber tried to enter an insanity plea.
Which, again, he was like, I hear voices in this house. Spooky.
Yes. And
we'll talk about that more later in the hauntings.
So the prosecution argued that Dafoe Jr. was a mere drug addict who was well aware of what he was doing that night. He was convicted on 6 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced to 6 concurrent sentences of 25 years to life.
Wow.
So there was absolutely no way that this guy was getting out.
Yep.
It wasn't until after the Lutz family moved into the house that same year, so just a few months after.
Literally, like, in December.
Remember, of 1975. So he got convicted in October. The Lutz family moved in December.
That's
so
great.
4 months after. Not even 4.
So when we're talking this is a fresh murder, this is a fresh murder.
It was actually 2 months after he got convicted.
Wow.
This is when the hauntings of the house allegedly started to happen, which is where the Lutz family,
where we meet
a lot of the movies pick up from.
The family picks up straight from the Lutzes.
Yeah, so we don't get any of the back history really in any of them.
Yeah.
But it follows George and Kathy, where they purchased their house, which is a 4,000 square foot house, at $80,000.
Oof, wild. $80,000 for 4,000 square feet.
And
good luck.
Which I think the movies kind of got pretty accurate because they are genuinely surprised in both versions, and they're like, well, what's going on? Like, why
is this place so cheap?
Why is this big beautiful house so cheap?
And also, I don't know if it says it, but also like the house was fully furnished, like, because obviously the family inside was murdered, so like all of their stuff was basically still in the house. Like these murdered people's stuff was still in the house.
And even in the movie, when we did the research, it even showed that like
the bed frames were still there. The mattresses were gone that they were murdered on, but the bed frames were still there.
Yeah, it's like basically the couches, tables are like, well, if you buy the house, you keep all of it.
Yeah.
You keep what's inside.
Yeah. And so they made a point of that as well. So we just want you guys to know for background.
Yeah. So they moved out 28 days later after these said terrifying incidents, allegedly forcing them to flee.
So again, in the movie, it's the countdown of those 28 days. So like I said, less than a month that they lived there.
So, of course, like we said earlier, the house remains still a house.
Mm-hmm.
Although it has changed hands for a few, obviously, decades, and by a few since 1975 when the murders happened.
Yeah, 4 decades.
Yeah. But even after the house's address changed, the public still fantasized and never let up.
Mm-hmm.
Even to present, the Dutch colonial home is quite a property, with 5 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms, and a boathouse on the canal off the Long Island Sound.
That's crazy.
The house can command a high price and attract wealthy buyers.
But also, knowing the history in the house is important.
It's like, do you really want to...
And again, like, the son being like, I heard voices in the house. So then, like, remember, and again, we'll talk about this more in the hauntings, but, like, was it already haunted at that point in the 74? Or did this event cause the haunting? So we'll talk more about that.
We'll talk more. Yeah, there's a lot of theories that kind of follow that.
Yeah.
And one thing that I do is just speaking of the boathouse that Caitlin and Josh mentioned was the boathouse wasn't as heavily influenced on the 1979 whatever that first movie as it was in the 2005
Ryan Reynolds. So the boathouse really doesn't matter. And again, in our history and like in our actual research of the crime, it didn't really have anything to do with it.
The boathouse was just kind of there.
It was just a part of it.
Yeah. I don't know why in 2005 they decided the boathouse needed to be more important.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't that important at all.
Yeah. And in the 70s version of the movie, like they kind of make like this basement area under the stairs, which is a real room in the house. It was called the green room, I think is what they called it. It was like a closet that like used to be for like extra storage, like inside a room. It's kind of what they used to use back in the day to like store extra stuff. And so they kind of made that as like, but then in the movie they made it like a basement wall, which was like the scary part.
And that's again where one of the theories with the hauntings come in play that Debbie will talk about
it. Yeah.
So, but despite its appeal, after the Lutz family moved out, it went into foreclosure in 1977.
Wah, wah.
And it was next owned by James and Barbara, and the owners of Riverhead Raceway.
Mm-hmm.
They changed the Amityville Horror House from 112 to 108 Ocean Avenue.
So there's the address change. And again, like 112 to 108. The house is itself very visible.
Yeah, there's really nothing you could do to like you would have to completely demolish the house for it to not be noticeable.
Yeah.
But whatever. So they were hoping to stave off the stalkers and retain its fluctuating value, but still, that didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And the address remains as 108.
The 108.
After an uneventful decade living within its walls, they sold it to Peter and Jenna O'Neill in 1987, and the O'Neill sold it in 1997 for $310,000 to Brian Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And the most recent time that it was sold was in 2017, which pretty much doubled the price to $605,000.
Wow.
So whereas nowadays the house, because it is haunted, is just like, oh look, we're gonna double the price.
I know, but wait, it gets even crazier.
Yes. So, as for the New Jersey home used for the 1979 Amityville exterior shots.
So it was a different house than the actual, obviously, where the murder actually happened.
But I thought it was pretty cool that they used all the exterior shots. Like, they used the real
And that's
home.
like a big part of the movie. Like, they're like the movie literally just cuts to stills of the house all the time, which I'm like, okay, overkill.
Yeah.
But like the main feature of the house is like the 2 windows that look like eyes to your soul. So they like to cut to that a lot. Again to make it more dramatic.
Yeah, that, and then we'll also get more into that again in the hauntings.
I'm sorry, I'm getting excited.
I know, but it's hard not to, because this is one of those like iconic kind of true crime murders that was fantasized into so many different movies. But it was put on the market in 2011 for 1.45 million, then dropped to 1.3 million. When Adelaide Fragos put the 1920 structure on the market, she was immediately asked if it was haunted.
Yep, immediately.
She explained that ghosts had nothing to do with the sale and that she was merely divorcing her husband. When asked if she had seen the famous film, she explained she only saw parts of it, but that her children see it consistently.
They were like, yeah, we're just going to keep watching this movie.
It's
so
kind of funny, but it's also like, dude, you probably should have watched that.
I mean, like, and also, like, your children probably should not be watching a horror movie. I don't know how old the children.
They probably shouldn't be watching that horror movie
the house they're living in.
Because it's
I think that's double bad luck.
like, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
So, despite the widely publicized 1974 killings, numerous families have since moved in and out of the house, now listed at 108. Meanwhile, the perpetually... Yeah. I don't know why I stumbled on that word this time. But
the paranormal occurrences.
The paranormal occurrences that have happened here have spawned a slew of books and films like the movie Amityville Horror, which have kept tourists flocking to the house ever since.
Wow. So, again, the murders happened in 1974. The conviction was in October of 1975. They moved into the house in December of 75. And that's what that's the timeline we're mainly going to be focusing on.
Yeah.
And again, the people have lived in the house, so we always talk about like it's always people, place, time. So with them moving into the house so recent after the murder, obviously there might be things that are more fresh and more hauntings and more apparitions. And then whenever it comes to the people that have lived into it since, they have felt a little something, but never to the extent of which the Lutzes felt.
And I definitely think that, like we mentioned, people, time, place kind of thing, but we've also talked about as time goes on, and
what
you've
happens to
is that like the energy starts to die down because it's not so concentrated on it anymore, and people are starting to move on from what had actually happened.
Yeah, and again, it's all about energies and all that we put in and put out.
So I think definitely since it was so fresh, everybody was talking about it. It was on everyone's mind, especially the people in the town. It's kind of like here in Waco, the whole David Koresh thing.
Yeah.
And now that it's so far off, it's like, is it really a thing? It's like, it's
I mean, it is, but
it's what it is, but it's there. So I definitely think that had a big part to play in it. And now that, it's obviously being sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars to even $1 million.
Yeah.
So,
1.45 billion.
Yeah.
And with that, it's time for
a commercial break. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Spooky.
And on this commercial break, don't watch horror movies and
haunted house. Don't watch Don't watch your horror movie about your haunted house.
That's about as dumb as watching a movie like The Alamo at the Alamo.
Actually, that would kind of be fun.
That would actually be pretty cool. Is it the smartest idea? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But is it cool? Yeah. And now, back to the show.
Spooky. All right, and we're back. Allison, it's time to get into
The
hauntings. So I know we already gave a lot of spoilers, but we know a lot about this.
Isn't this like one of those movies that they had us watch at Midway?
No, they did not have us watch it. And it's not my teachers did, but I don't know. I didn't do normal school, as we've already talked about.
Because Debbie,
I got
too
big brain
good for us.
No,
she's too good for us.
Anyway, well, so again, I'm gonna kind of pick up more. I just gave the rundown before commercial break on the timeline, and so we're picking up on George Lutz. He is the dad. So again, this is the dad that like kind of is the one that's like started all the paranormal claims. Right after, of course, the shooting.
And this just kind of helps reinforce what we were talking about before the commercial break, the whole people place thing.
Yeah.
So,
and again, like, George Lutz was already curious about paranormal activity, and again, like, there's a lot of speculation that like their family was not as well off, which is why they were kind of like, oh, discount budget house at $80,000, deal, we'll take it. And the whole thing is like in the movie they make him like the stepdad, like marrying this woman, trying to take care of her and her two kids, and all this. But anyway, so George Lutz was curious about the paranormal activity, and actively tried to summon spirits in the house. So
again, not the greatest idea. And
then again, he actually may have had a financial motivation to sell his story to the media due to the family's severe debt. So again, they were like, "Ooh, budget house, $80,000.
Yeah.
How can we get rich off of this?" And again, it might not have been his intentions going into the house to make it something.
Yeah.
But it might have been something that happened.
And you have to remember that they're figuring out what happened at the house.
Yeah, they were not told ahead of time. No one told them about the murder in the house.
They had no idea. They hadn't.
So when they
read
bought the house, they did not know.
They literally just went in and bought the house, which I don't know.
I would have probably do a little bit more research, but
I don't know who doesn't ask about the history of the house. Like,
yeah, I mean, my house had very little history, but
like, I don't. Why would you not ask?
Yeah, why would you not ask?
Especially if you would have, if they would have asked, they would have known. Like, oh yeah, 2 months ago, these murders happened.
Yeah, and even Dafoe Jr.'s attorney, Mr. Weber, has said that the hauntings were a hoax and that they literally made that up. Him and they made it up to give Dafoe Jr. like a case. So they're like, no, all these hauntings are a hoax. We just said he was crazy because we were trying to get him off, and we just told him to say that he heard voices. So like, and again, this is of course the lawyer saying the attorney being like, nah, it's a hoax. So who knows? So again, going back to Jay Anston's 1977 book, The Amityville Horror, which was based on the reports of the events that happened. So again, timeline, murder 74, trial 75, moved in December 75, book comes out 2 years later, 1977, and then this book inspires the film in 1979. So again, it's kind of like, is it too soon to be talking about this? Is it too soon? I feel like it's a little like, that's 6 people died. Let's cash in on this cash cow.
I mean, it's very rushed.
Very rushed. And again, like the Jay Anston's book, again, like basically Weber's just trying to say like, we just made it up while we were drinking. You know, like, this is not real. Again, we were just trying to get him off. So he didn't get in trouble. But the book became a bestseller. So the book became the bestseller. The 1979 film, again, was remade in 2005. And the film just grew into a classic. And again, it's just a what do they say? Like a fixture of its time.
Yeah.
And, all the horror aficionados and horror people love it.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's just kind of like a testament of the events that happened, but also Hollywoodized.
I mean, if you think about it, even to this day, mankind is still like this. If you look at a lot of these true crime kind of stuff, we all still flock to it.
Yeah, it's a train wreck you can't look away.
Yeah.
And, like, we try to be as respectful, and like we don't want to minimize these people's trauma or like their family trauma or anything, but like it's become a part of pop culture in a way that we can't not talk about it. Which again, we try to be as respectful as possible, but also these are cases from like now the 70s, which was 40 years ago. So I don't think anybody that was as close to the event.
No, I mean, if you
look
at it,
still come after us.
The Lutzes,
don't come after us.
I mean, even if you look at it, like obviously the Dafoe family's no longer living.
Yeah.
And if it is, it's Dafoe Jr. and he's in prison.
Yeah.
Until,
I think he died. Yeah.
And so then the only people that really have lived through the experience would be the Lutzes. And even then, the parents.
Because if he was 23 in 74, it's 2023.
Yeah.
He would be like 70 years old now.
Yeah.
And again, like, the book was based after 45 hours of families' recorded interviews. So the guy that wrote the book, like, interviewed the Lutzes and was like, tell me everything that happened. And he even interviewed all 3 of the Lutz children. So even the children, like, were talking about it. Christopher Quarantino confirmed that the hauntings happened. However, he also said that the events were exaggerated by his stepfather, George Lutz. So Christopher's one of the children of the Lutzes. Today, countless people still yearn, obviously, to get into the Amityville Horror House because, as we said, it's part of pop culture. It's a part of this horror, it's just classic. So people obviously still want to go. And you know what they say, like, the home entities are not very shy to show themselves. They make themselves known through sound, touch. They've even appeared to families and other things that have happened, as well as they've appeared to investigators. So in 2005, when the Inside Edition was conducting an interview, a swarm of flies appeared in the home, which I don't know if you guys have seen the movie again. That's like a big deal in the movie is the flies, which are disgusting.
And if y'all don't know, it's said that if you see a group of flies, that it's meant that there is like a demonic or evil spirit around.
Yeah, because they're attracted to sulfur and stinky and demonic and evil entities.
Yeah.
So again, like, even these interviewers from Inside Edition are being like, yeah, there's a swarm of flies in here. And again, anybody that knows anything, like, you're like, that's not good. So again, it's like, are there actually demons in this house that might have been telling him to murder his entire family, or are the demons him, you know?
I mean, maybe he truly was crazy and just kind of made it out to what it was.
Yeah, and could they have been the voices inside of his head, or did this incident cause the hauntings? Despite the home actually being blessed by a priest before they moved in, so again, that makes a point in the movie. The priest comes over. The Lutz's family actually was on the receiving end of some pretty horrific paranormal occurrences, and George again is the one that talks about it the most. Who's the stepfather of the kids. He claimed that he would wake up every day at 3:15 each morning.
Was it 3:15 or 2:15?
It was 3:15 because I think in the movie, and again in the movie, they make it a point to show the clock, and like he wakes up and he's like, and like they start having weird nightmares. But anyway, historically, he claimed he woke up at 3:15 each morning, and that was the precise time that the murders happened.
Yeah.
So, which we said earlier. So it's kind of like, that's a little, that's scary. And then Missy, the Lutz daughter, actually began to communicate with an imaginary friend, in quotation marks, or maybe demonic entity, who they named Jody. And again, in the movie and in historical records, people don't know if it was actually their daughter that came up with Jody or if it was George that came up with Jody. So it's kind of like, it's again like one of those things where it's kind of been told both ways.
And they also, this is one of those, like, it has multiple theories. One of them being it could have been the daughter. Yeah.
Playing with her, like either one of the other little girls.
The Dafoe's daughter playing with her. Another theory is that it was a demonic spirit
playing with her,
trying to
pretend to be a little girl to get inside of her head and maybe corrupt her, just as Dafoe Jr. was corrupted. And then like even Kathy herself, like, so Kathy is the wife in this situation, said that she claimed to levitate over her bed, which I'm kind of like, I don't like that. And she said that she would have like painful pain in her chest. So, and she had painful welts all over her chest.
And that showed up briefly.
I think so, just for a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, bro, that's an allergic reaction, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it could also be ghost caused. But anyway, she had welts on her chest. And then, of course, the children also reported levitating during their slumber. But also, like, the son has come out and been like, no, this was just our stepfather being dramatic. But then also, the kids are like, no, we were levitating above our bed. So George and son Daniel reported an apparition of a pig-like creature staring at them from a window. So again, pigs related to demonic energies. And it had red eyes piercing through the dark.
And we did see this once. They showed
they like do a representation of it again. And it's really bad.
It's so horribly done.
I know.
But
like it's like not even scary on how
no, it's literally just like
again, it's a psychological thriller. It's not good.
Yeah, but and again, in the 1979 version, they did it with the iconic windows. Mm-hmm. And that's where they put the pig head and everything.
And like flat, and it had like bright green or bright red eyes, so the whole like, spooky. Yeah. But anyway, so then on January 14th of 1976, the Lutz's family had enough and finally reached their breaking point. So after 28 days, they moved out of the house. They left the house and every single one of their possessions behind. So remember, the house was like already furnished or had a bunch of the stuff in it, but they just left everything. Following a night of terror they refused to tell in detail. So here's the story of what happened on the 28th night before they left.
And I think that this is the night that most of us are the most curious about, because
what really happened.
Yeah, like in
no one leaves their house in the middle of the night.
No.
Even if you are building the story that
Yeah, and then, just in the middle of the night at 3:15, it's just not a thing.
Yeah, but no one gets out of their house and just drives away and never looks back and never gets their stuff again.
Yeah, for me, what makes me so curious is that in the 1979 version, they hop in the car, they start to drive away. The dad hops out of the car, gets the dog, runs back.
Yeah.
Then in the 2005 version, they go off in the little speedboat.
Yeah. Which, that's kind of funny. But okay, so they fled their home, leaving the evil entities behind, watching from the windows as they drove their family to safety. So what happened this night, or at least again in what is said to have happened, is they woke up at 3:15 and it sounded like there was a marching band of footsteps in the living room. And again, they won't really describe it because it was traumatic for them. But this has kind of been the retelling that people have kind of got out of them. But basically they heard what they considered to be a horde of people or a marching band in their living room. So they hear all of these footsteps. And George and his wife, Kathy, wake up and run downstairs who's in our house? Someone's breaking in. And again, they'd already been dealing with all this other paranormal stuff for 27 days. So on the 28th day, they hear this marching band. They run downstairs. There's no one there. The only thing that they see is the edge of one of their carpet or one of their rugs was flipped up. So it looked like there had been people marching. And again, there was no one there, but the rug was disturbed. So it's kind of ooh, that's scary.
Yeah.
And again, that's all the details we have because they don't like talking about it. But, to leave your house in the middle of the night is also just terrifying. Yeah. And then, explorations from Ed and Lorraine Warren. So we've talked about them before,
Yes.
Famous ghost hunters, famous people. Ed and Lorraine, I think probably were already famous by now, but this was one of their investigations that really set them on the map. So Ed and Lorraine Warren collaborate the Lutz's story and say they stayed in the house for one night investigating and claimed that they would be able to that they were able to make contact with all these entities. And then Ed Warren even stated in the 2000 documentary, so there was a documentary also made called Amityville, Horror or Hoax. Ooh, that's a good name for a title. And basically all he said is, in quotation marks, this was no ordinary haunted house. On a scale of 1 to 10, this was a 10. In quotation marks. So, and I mean, for Ed Warren to say that, who is in quotation marks respected in the paranormal community, it's like, okay, I trust you.
If you don't know who these people are,
look it up.
Life.
Look it up.
We
talked about them before. Yeah, Annabelle.
The Conjuring.
Yeah.
The Nun. Go watch any of those.
Go watch all those.
I promise you will be scared out of your. Well, yeah.
And again, like today, some people remain skeptical about the house. Yeah. They say that it was just a publicity stunt from the Lutzes, and they said it was just George trying to rake in money from book deals and interviews. But George Lutz says otherwise. And again, in that snippet from the documentary Amityville Horror Hoax, George actually is in the documentary, and he states in quotation marks, "I believe this has stayed alive for 25 years because it's true story. It doesn't mean that everything that has been said about it is true, but it's certainly not a hoax. It's real easy to call something a hoax. I wish it was, but it's not." And that was from George's own words. And again, in this 2005 documentary. So, or not 2005, sorry, 2000 documentary. So again, 25 years after the incident, it's still fresh in his mind. And again, like what he did, they were kind of in a financial situation. So it's almost like he was gonna, he was gonna profit after this. And then in 2013, in another documentary called My Amityville Horror, interviews with Daniel Lutz, who again is his son, said, basically, like Daniel says, "This is not something I asked for. I've been running away from it, and it finally caught up to me." And he actually tells of the abuse that was suffered from his stepfather and, even of satanic dabbling occurring in the walls of the home. So again, like George was the one who was trying to summon the spirits in the house, you know. The kids did not ask for that. It just happened to them.
And just going from that note, though, it is said that land was actually cursed.
Yeah, and
because it was
Native American land.
And so obviously
that's why you have to do land acknowledgements, people.
Yeah, and it said that they cursed the land from any quote unquote white man from ever being comfortable in that property.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
So, now again, how accurate that is, how true that is, we don't really know until
that was just one of those little side things that people claim,
and we don't know until you start to dig into history. But what we do know is that that land was Native American land.
Yeah. And we've talked about that in the past. So you don't have to beat a dead horse. Literally. Anyway, so again, back to Daniel though. What is interesting and what is it, like circular? What brings it all back home for this is like Daniel did not have a good relationship with George, which mirrors what happened with Dafoe Jr. and his father. So it's almost like it's like paralleling each other, and maybe the horror itself is the parallels between the two families. Because again, like Dafoe was abused, his mom was absentee, like and his younger siblings probably were not given the best life they could have. So I mean, of course that doesn't give you an excuse to murder your parents and murder your siblings.
And I know that in some of the research I said that it's maybe the house attracted the Lutz family into it because of the similarities. So many similarities that they shared with the Dafoe family.
And that's why we say person, place, and time. Yeah. And again, like it could have just been causing this parallel that was again bringing back these spirits, bringing back this demonic energy, or even again, as we keep saying, maybe it was the Dafoe family feeling the Lutz's family and then feeding into that. So it's just kind of interesting that it kind of paralleled in that way. And Daniel now lives in Queens, and he remains steadfast at saying that the house ruined his life. So it doesn't matter about the ghosts, but also from the abuse, but it ruined his life. So like his life was ruined because of what other people did. And again, it might have been haunted, but he also continues to have nightmares regarding the house to this day. So it's kind of crazy. And I mean, people are still skeptical, and like I get it, but both George and Kathy have actually taken polygraph tests as well. And guess what? they passed.
Oh, no.
And you know us crime junkies out here, like, you know how we feel about polygraphs, like, are they actually... They could be B and they could be... It's not a result. It's just like
any other test. It's not 100% accurate, but...
But just to know that they passed is kind of like, maybe...
It puts a little bit of comfort.
Puts a little bit of comfort in it. As we mentioned earlier, the home sold again most recently in 2017. It might have been bought again recently, but I think 2017 is still the most recent. And it was an undisclosed buyer, so they did not want to put their names in the papers, if you will. And they actually got it for $200,000 below asking price,
which is insane. And again, this goes back.
It was like just over like $600,000.
Yeah,
Does hauntings sell?
I mean, it's still kind of insane. And for a 5-bedroom, 3.5 bath, you would expect it to be $800,000 at least. Yeah, if not.
And again, in today's market, today's economy,
it'd be like $1.5 million.
Yeah,
at
probably.
least in today's.
And again,
economy.
it's in Long Island, you know, like it's right off of this the shore. Like there's literally a boat ramp. Like it's crazy. And I mean, again, the address was changed, but the current owners actually are living in it, and they say they're saying it's dormant for now. And you know what they say about dormant volcanoes? They can erupt at any time. But again, they have not reported any paranormal things. But it could also be like we've talked about in the past, where they're like, it's not haunted, but just quirky things happen sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
that's like okay.
It might be one of those things that certain things are happening. They're passing it off, but it's the house trying to like say like, hey,
I'm still here.
I'm still here. But maybe it'll pick up if they sell it into again, like it just depends. Maybe their house is trying to find another dysfunctional family, and
so put the dysfunctional family in the house and then
and then lock them up.
Then lock them in there.
That's what happens, right?
Is that family therapy? Anyway, regardless,
who's gonna win, the house or the family?
Regardless of everything, there were 6 horrific murders that occurred here about 40 years ago, leaving behind a deep, dark stain that permeates the wall of the Amityville house. And again, that's just history. And, you know, a house is what you make it, right?
Yeah.
That's why we talk about haunted locations.
Yeah.
Especially haunted houses. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode of the True Crime Edition. Hauntingly True Crime.
Honestly, this was exciting, and I'm glad that we were able to redo it. Despite, like, I wish we wouldn't have lost the audio because y'all would have gotten this a lot sooner, but it's still fun to be able to redo it. And then, again, if y'all listen to this episode, be sure to go listen to Boo Bays.
Check out their episode.
Shout out their episode, see what they have to say about it. They definitely went more into depth than in the live show. Yeah. Because obviously...
Because it was live, so we couldn't really...
So we're trying to watch the movie and review it all at the same time. But they brought up a lot of good points in their episodes and what they thought of it. I think they just went ahead and reviewed the 1979.
Yeah, and I think even at one point Caitlin like pointed out like inconsistencies. Yeah. Or like I think in the movie like a lamp broke or something, and she's like, if you look in this shot, you can see that the lamp was just glued back together and then used again. And I'm like, that's hilarious. But they have a lot of great input, so just go check them out over at Boo Bays. Don't forget to follow us, like, subscribe, check us out on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and don't forget to join us for RogueCon 23. Yeah. RogueCon 23, 10 a.m., 21st of January.
Yeah.
Join us.
And yeah, because, you know, it'd be kind of fun to see y'all there. Yeah. Hang out with y'all.
Get your tickets.
Yeah.
And again, it's only $10 if you want to just come see us for the day. And again, that does give you access to everything else going on. Yes. But we're the most important. I'm just kidding. Yes. Or you could just get a full weekend ticket, which is for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday's activities to have all of the fun. And that is for $20. Thank you guys for tuning in. And
we'll see you next time.
Bye. You've been listening to The Poltergals,
a Rogue Media Network podcast.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.